explosivity up the middle, and we didn't have the skills out on the side to make up for it. Of course, there were some highlights. Every time I saw Carl Ablett's beautiful face, my heart leapt, and he remains the most underrated player of all time. And later on in the year, we got back to being a more sort of steady away team and belted through the qualifiers, apart from Huddersfield, who we just don't know how to win against, do we? Anyway, here's looking forward to 2017. It will have the marvellous Super League pod in it, I am quite sure. It will be Ryan Hall's testimonial, and it will be the first time that the Leeds Rhinos win the treble without Sinfield, Peacock and Luluai. You see, you heard it here first. Now, a short thank you for the amazing work that Tom and Mark do. And I know that everybody listening to this knows this, but it's just tremendous the amount of effort that they put in. That means that every week through the rugby league season and great chunks of off time as well, we've got something to listen to brighten our dog walks, long journeys or waiting in airports for travel. I really do appreciate it and wish them all the best for the next few years.
What can I say? What a year it's been when we think about the highs, the glory and the achievement of the team working together cohesively. Look at what they can do. Sorry guys, that's last year's review. In the predictions last year, for this year, I predicted that Leeds wouldn't win this silverware, and this would be a rebuilding year. But I don't think I could have predicted just how much rebuilding needed to happen. In one swoop, we lost both on-pitch leadership and a world-class kicker, something which Sky reminded us about at every opportunity. Oh, and we signed Bo for Loom. It wasn't long before the excuses bingo came out. Training field, Sports Personality of the Year, injuries, internal issues. Bingo! The training field issues aside, they made a bit of sense, and it did seem we were struggling with injuries. But how the fuck can a telephone vote in December affect players in March? We lost Hardacre to Oz, and if the rumours are true, I bear him no ill, wish him well, and can see why he'd want to get out of Leeds for a bit. I know I predicted no silverware this year, but that was before the honour of playing for the Tesco value vase of the Besrisman Trophy. Get in! It was nice this year not to have the post-Challenge Cup slump that we've carried around for the last few years. I know it's a season review, but can we not move on? You know, I do think the middle eights were vastly more exciting this year than the top eight. Congratulations to Lee. It just goes to show if you've got a team who plays well, works well together, and an owner who's willing to buy Super League players at Super League prices, anyone can get out the championship. I'll leave you with thank you lads for the year. Looking forward to next year's podcast. And so for us, Leeds 2017, it's going to be a rebuilding year.
Now then, lads. So here we are again, and just before we get into it, I just want to say a massive thank you. The pod does go from strength to strength. We keep saying it every year, but it's a massive highlight of my week. Tuesday morning at work is great. I can listen to the pod; it gets me to lunchtime, no problem. And you know, it's a great thing that you do, and I'm just so pleased that you keep on doing it. And thank you. So now to the Rhino season review. What a difference 12 months makes, eh? This time last year, it couldn't get any better. I'm not going to say it couldn't get any worse, because it could, and I feel sorry for OKR in that situation. But yeah, a crazy year. Let's start with the excuses. The training ground situation was an absolute nightmare, and you can see how that could affect a club. Losing key players who were just such an influence in the dressing room, yeah, that's major. And the injuries obviously played a massive part, but lots of clubs had big injuries. Wigan had big injuries, and they're the champions, and congratulations to them. But I think the bottom line is Wigan play with such a structure, and I'm led to believe even through their academy they're running the same set plays. Now, a team like Leeds, when it plays so much off-the-cuff rugby, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem because when you bring new people into that structure, they're going to struggle because Leeds don't really have a structure. They don't really have a plan. It's play what you see. And when you haven't got your main men on the field, that can be a problem. And I think we suffered from that a lot. A lack of fitness, a lack of leadership. So what were the low points of the season? I think for me, Widnes, both games, home and away. Start of the season, just before the World Club, we got pumped. I think it was 50 odd, and then you could maybe feel that things weren't great and there were some issues. And then Easter was pretty bad. Castleford at Easter that sort of finished me off, really. That sort of broke my heart. I remember literally, and I'm a little bit embarrassed to say it, but burst into tears after that game. A grown man crying in his living room. My wife got up to make her morning coffee with me being over in Australia, and she just, gave me a bit of a rollicking for being a soft ass. But at that point, I felt, when we played Cass at Cass, we just couldn't get over the line. That game we could have won, and we could have got ourselves back in top 8, and maybe I felt we could have turned things around at that point. And Ablett gave a penalty away, I think at second tackle, when we had the ball on their line to score, and that just sort of summed up how things were going. We just couldn't get the job done. And then, like I said, Widnes just before the middle eights. If we could have got something out of that game, we had an opportunity to win that game several times. We just kept blowing it. And they were the low points for me, which led to us ultimately being in the bottom 4. Now, the highlights for me, obviously this season, the signing of Seguiaro. That's an outstanding signing at any level. What a world-class player he is. And fingers crossed moving forward, he can be something we can build towards to get ourselves back in contention for some trophies. Jimmy Kynors coming to the forefront, getting his opportunity, and what a player he's become. He's steady away, no frills, but an ultimate competitor, super professional and super fit, and coming into his own now. And Jordan Lilly as well, there's one for the future there. I want Shaw, but you can see there's something in him. And one of our big problems was we didn't have goal kickers. Now we've got Jordan Lilly and Sutcliffe, who are still got somewhere to go, but are heading in the right direction. And I think ultimately, JJB coming back in and performing and proving some people wrong. A lot of people doubted him, even Leeds fans. And I think the signing of Brett Ferris, some people have said he hasn't had a great season. I think he's been outstanding personally. I think the biggest plus of the season is the fans as well, how the Leeds fans have stood by the club. It would have been easy to walk away, people not to turn up, but people have bought season tickets. And I'll tell you something, with friends and family and my dad, who's probably my best mate, they actually quite enjoyed the middle eights as a novelty value, and I'm sure we don't want to be there every year, but going to Featherstone and Batley coming to Leeds and those kind of things, they really quite enjoyed it. It was a bit special for them. You won't want to do it too often, but they enjoyed it. Moving forward, Max staying on. A lot of people have called for the coach's head, but I think he deserves a chance to put it right. I think what we do need to do is to bring in an half-back who can control a game, who's got a great passing game and a leader to steer us around the field. And I think, if we could get someone like Jamie Soward in, that'd be a great move. We'll see where he ends up. And I think we need to add an assistant coach. I think someone like Yestin Harris, could we get him back to Leeds? I'm not sure, but I've heard in an interview recently he said his fondest days were at Leeds. And I think if he could come in as attacking coach, that could get things moving in the right direction. So look, that was our season in a nutshell. After losing Peacock and Sinfield, well, what a way to purge yourselves. I think, if lessons can be learned, this season from hell can be something we can build on for the future and, get us back fighting for trophies. And, when you're in a dark place, you can look to these times to say we came through them as a team and a squad and a club. So let's see how the future goes. Not a great season, but hopefully 2017 will hold better things. Cheers, boys. Thanks a lot.
So, 3 Super League pod stalwarts getting in touch with us and some kind words from all 3, so thank you for that, gentlemen. But the overall arching theme for me is basically that Leeds fans are now like, is it 2017 yet? Can we put this behind us and
I'm still thinking
and move on?
I'm still thinking how impressed I am that a man can live overseas for as long as Rich has and still retain his accent so wonderfully, robustly.
Yes, it is.
That's where I'm at.
It's great work, isn't it? It's fantastic. He's married to an Aussie as well, I think. So. Is he?
I think so. He's definitely got an Aussie child.
Yeah, well, there you go. So that's even better work. The thing I'm most impressed with is that he hasn't developed the upward inflection at the end of every sentence, which is testament to him. But back to rugby league.
No. First of all, great skill by Dr. Bob filling in all of your key catchphrases, Tom. That was solid work. And
they do say that imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Yeah. So I'll take that.
And then we have Dom in the middle patting himself on the back for his prediction.
Oh yeah, you nailed it, Dom. You must be really pleased. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Fantastic to hear from all three. And yeah, I mean, it is going to be a rebuilding year. I like the fact that none of them played the blame game, which was something that some fans were tempted to do and said, "Oh well, we've had this, we've had that."
Well, Bob nearly turned into a Warrington fan, but other than that.
We'll let him off. If you're the 3-time winner of the Dr. Bob Phillips Listener of the Year award, then you've got
Anthony Gelling level man of the people.
You've got some leeway in my book at least. But they didn't play the blame game, which is great because actually I think that whilst they've lost some players, this is with everything that added up to it not being a great year for Leeds, they were still underperforming, and the uptick for you if you're a Leeds fan is that their performances in the middle eights were were an improvement. Mm-hmm. I'll say vastly improved, but were an improvement. And some of the recruitment that's going on for you for next season augurs well, and it goes to show what you can achieve if you've got an actual hooker playing actually at hooker and doing it well. So hopefully that will again augur well for them in 2017. So let's see how they do. But flooded training facilities, losing some players, and some injuries doesn't for me add up to where that group of players ended up. So there's an unspoken question, or there's an intangible question about what's going on within that group. What went on within that group? Do
you want some answers?
I'd love to know.
Stats?
Yeah, please.
The real problem for me, at Leeds this year, was the creative positions. Those excuses that those guys didn't want to own, which was great, like you say. Maybe contributed to this, but the real problem for me at Leeds was in the creative positions. They walked the qualifiers as they should have done, so there's not really much point looking there to see what went wrong. But looking at their Super League regular season stats this year, you'll see that they had more carries per game than any other side in Super League this year from those 23 games. They were more successful offloads per game, so that was still working for them. They were second in metres per game. They were still ranked mid-table for clean breaks per game. They were the third best in terms of forcing goal line dropouts per game, and they gave away the fewest penalties. They were, though, dead last in tries and points scored, averaging only 3 tries per game in the first 23 rounds. Their fullbacks, whoever it might have been, averaged 0.1 tries per game and 0.1 try assists per game, 3 of each in total. The standoffs averaged 0.1 tries per game, 0.4 try assists per game. Scrum halves averaged 0.2 tries per game and 0.3 assists per game. These figures don't compare too favourably when you look at the league-wide figures. Fullbacks, on average, scored at 3 times the rate and assisted at twice the rate of Leeds. Standoffs scored at twice the rate and assisted at a half again of the rate, 0.6 assists per game. Scrum halves scored tries at the same rate, actually, 0.2 tries per game, but assisted at more than twice as big a rate as the Leeds players did, 0.7 assists per game. That was across the rest of the league. So those positions where you're expecting your creativity to come from and your points to come from, they were vastly underperforming compared to the rest of the league. You could point to injuries, but last year's Man of Steel played 13 times at fullback, so more than half the games. Maguire played 8 times at standoff, so more than a third of the games. Burrow played 11 times at scrum half. Then on top of that, young players that have been talked up plenty, Sutcliffe and Lilly, both in the conversation for Young Player of the Year at different times. They played 19 and 14 times respectively in one of these 3 positions on the field. Yeah, they were still the least productive overall in these key playmaking positions. So great youngsters, experienced players, accolades,
called upon to be in the England squad at one point. Jordan Lilly.
Yeah, the other big factor against them was errors. They were top of the league in errors made per game with 14. They didn't defend all that great off the back of it either. Second to Hull KR in missed tackles per game and clean breaks allowed per game. One bright point for Leeds was the emergence of Jordan Lilly. He showed some real promise and was an outside contender for Young Player of the Year in mid-season. His goal kicking at 84% success rate also shows he might be the long-term successor for the great Kevin Sinfield with the boot, so we might not need to hear, well, we'll hear that reminder forevermore from Sky until Eddie retires, but they maybe have someone who can fill those big boots. The other real positive was the late season signing of Seguiara that the guys everyone really wants to get on board with that.
Yeah.
He grabbed 6 tries and 5 assists in the 10 games he played. He only tasted defeat once.